You know, the person who can find something funny in almost any situation? The one who stays calm when everyone else is unraveling? That reaction usually isn't random. It's often the byproduct of having endured experiences that permanently altered how they interpret the world. When someone cuts them off in traffic, they don't explode. Instead, their mind instantly runs alternative explanations. Maybe the driver is overwhelmed. Maybe they're rushing to a hospital. When you've weathered serious storms of your own, smaller disruptions rarely feel catastrophic. Your internal scale changes. People who've survived prolonged hardship don't necessarily have damaged minds. More often, they have trained ones. Their nervous systems adapted for survival. The threat may no longer be present, but the wiring remains. Their brains learn to anticipate, calculate, and endure. That conditioning doesn't vanish just because circumstances improve. Something subtle develops over time: resilience to chaos. Not immunity to pain, but resistance to being completely shattered by it. Once you've faced worst-case scenarios, you stop assuming that discomfort equals destruction. Survival becomes something you expect from yourself. What surprises many people is that these individuals aren't always hardened or bitter. Frequently, they become unusually empathetic. When you've studied pain firsthand, you recognize its dialect in others. A slight change in someone's voice, a smile that doesn't quite reach the eyes, those signals stand out immediately. They read emotional undercurrents the way others read headlines. They don't just hear silence. They analyze its texture. Is it tense? Sad? Frustrated? Exhausted? Walking into a room, they sense atmosphere before they notice decor. Their radar for distress is highly refined. There's also research supporting a phenomenon known as post-traumatic growth, a term developed by psychologist Richard Tedeschi. His work suggests that many people who endure significant trauma don't simply recover. They evolve. Relationships become more meaningful. Priorities sharpen. Ordinary experiences gain depth. A quiet sunset can feel profound because they understand how fragile normalcy is. But growth doesn't erase every side effect. Hypervigilance often lingers. Their internal alarm system rarely powers down completely. Maybe they prefer sitting where they can see the exits. Maybe they create backup plans for minor events. That isn't irrational fear. It's a nervous system conditioned to expect unpredictability. Another common pattern is minimizing their own suffering. It wasn't that bad. Others have it worse. Downplaying becomes reflexive. They survive by convincing themselves they were fine. Acknowledging vulnerability can feel like undoing that strength. Relationships can be complicated. Some become fiercely loyal, willing to show up at any hour for someone they care about. At the same time, they may struggle to express their own needs. Emotional closeness can trigger caution. If early attachment came with instability or hurt, their system may brace when intimacy deepens. This creates a painful contradiction: wanting connection but fearing dependence. Independence becomes armor. It looks powerful from the outside, yet it can be isolating. One strength that often emerges is adaptability. Major life changes don't paralyze them as easily. New environments, shifting circumstances, unexpected losses. They've practiced rebuilding before. Flexibility becomes instinct. Humor, especially the darker variety, is another hallmark. It isn't about dismissing pain. It's about reframing it. When you can laugh at what once terrified you, you reclaim power. Each joke becomes a subtle refusal to be defined by suffering. Control also plays a complicated role. They may obsess over small, manageable details while remaining surprisingly calm about larger uncertainties. That paradox makes sense. They learned early that major events are often uncontrollable, so they focus on what can be shaped, even if it's minor. They tend to embody duality: strong yet sensitive, guarded yet generous, realistic yet quietly hopeful. They understand that beauty and brutality coexist. Life can offer joy and devastation in the same moment. Beneath all of this lies a quieter grief. Not just grief for what happened, but for who they might have been without it. They miss earlier versions of themselves, more trusting, more carefree. They mourn a softness that didn't fully survive. Explaining that kind of loss is difficult. How do you articulate nostalgia for a self you barely got to know? This grief doesn't destroy them. It refines them. It makes them deliberate about who they let close. It deepens their appreciation for peace. They value safety because they understand the cost of chaos. Ultimately, people who've endured significant hardship often develop a layered understanding of humanity. They know strength isn't the absence of breaking. It's the willingness to rebuild repeatedly. They carry insight shaped by survival and compassion shaped by experience. They become steady in turbulent spaces, not because their path was easy, but because they learned how to navigate darkness. Like a lighthouse, their steadiness exists precisely because they remember what storms feel like. So when you meet someone who seems unusually composed during upheaval, who laughs at their own scars, who senses emotional shifts others overlook, recognize that this composure was earned. It reflects endurance, adaptation, and a refusal to stop hoping. That isn't just resilience. It's transformation.